Hey folks, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO, and I hope you guys are having a great week. I tell you what, just been jamming. You go through these periods in life where it seems like everything's just slow, and then all of a sudden you just jam it out, and that's how this week's been with Lena at gymnastics. Just the seasons are starting. We're starting to see excitement going. You just get jammed up, and it's interesting because over the last few days we've seen some substantial movement with the Federal Trade Commission. We've seen lawsuits that have launched. They sued some companies, some other companies sued them, which is interesting. We don't see that in marketing very often. We see it a lot in on Wall Street. But when a company decides, wait a minute, enough's enough, there's too much overreach, then you see literally guys take off. And Jeff Olson over at the company that we've known for many years called Narium decided to fight back. So he's doing that. Been studying been studying a whole new niche in the coffee business called happy coffee or smart coffee. It's nootropics is what it is. It's very interesting. So we've been studying that. Now we're seeing lawsuits that are coming out of what's supposed to be a positive time period. Happy something that I've studied for a while. We're not going to get into that today, but it's interesting because people that feel like they've been blessed in their life definitely are happier people. So whether that means weight loss, whether it's in relationships, doesn't matter what it is. So when I see companies inside that niche doing lawsuits and stuff, it makes me wonder, where was their decision making? What did they balance again? What kind of anchor did they use to say, okay, here's where I'm going with this? So that's what caused me today to say, okay, I want to look at your 5 point. What are the 5 really deciding factors, if you will, in decision making? I call them the 5 C's, and that's what we're going to go into, because we sometimes have knee-jerk reactions. We let emotions play into things. We don't think it through. So we just jump into that decision-making process. That can be with our kids. It can be with our spouse. It can be at work. And as I've gone through life now over the last 55 years of building a solid business, building a life, over the last 32 years, I'm in my 33rd now, of building a marriage, raising 9 kids, raising grandkids, you start to hone in on that decision factor. When you build large organizations, if you're a serial entrepreneur and you're building businesses and selling them off, there are decision-making. There's ways to make the decision. So today I want to dive into that. I know, guys and gals, everybody's getting ready for work. I'm at the Maple Street having coffee. I want to thank them for their support from day one. Maple Street has been behind me in launching our new podcast and launching the new websites, focusing on Main Street business, and my hat is off to them. As you guys know, Freddie Sheets over at Allen's Cool Ink, local master at the art of tattooing. Matter of fact, next Thursday, he'll be finishing out one of my sleeves, and my hat's off to him. If you're ever on the Emerald Coast, I tell you have to see, whether you want a new tat, cover up, piercing, doesn't matter. Freddie is the guy that you want to go see over at Allen's Cool Ink. Just a great, great guy. And I got to thank Corey over at Eddie Notes. They got us up and running on Amazon Fire and on Alexa. Great folks. They're really working hard with me behind the scenes. And we will be, I think, on the Roku. We'll have our own network on the Roku TV here before too long. So all of those guys, my hat's off to them. My opinions, my information does not mean they agree with me. It just means, hey, Troy, we like you. We want to support you. And that's what they're doing, and that's what I love. So let's dig into this morning. The 5 C's of successful decision making. Doesn't matter what area of your life it is. I tell you what, if you will just slow down, write these down, look at them, it's going to help you. And I'm going to share some stories in here of where I've failed at this. So many times we hear people who have been called to speak or called to teach or coach or whatever, And we only see the good side. We don't see the bad side. And I'm going to share some failures along the way here. But number one, the first C is consider. When you're making a decision, you've got to look at it for a second. You've got to consider all the options. You've got to know exactly what decisions are here. What decisions should I make? Are there's a way if I make this decision, or what if I make this decision? Very few times is there just one decision to be made. You have the opportunity to make a variety of decisions. Yesterday, I was on the phone with some great people. I mean, all day was just phone call after phone call after phone call. But I was on the phone with a passionate founder of a company. And one of the things that I started doing this year, I made the decision that before we take on any clients, they've got to go through some, at the very least, they've got to go through a couple of personality profiles. One of them is from Sally Hogshead, How to Fascinate, because I want to know how the world sees them. I want to know if I can work with them. I am so tired of over the last few years making decisions based on, oh, wow, that'd be a good one that we can get paid for. Dumb reason for us for that. So as I was listening to this gentleman just passionately share about his business, it made me realize, okay, he'd be a hard one to have listen to you. He is dead set in his ways. He's been very successful, multimillionaire. The company that he's launched, I think, is going to be a cutting edge company. But I thought, I don't think I could probably work with him. I think this is going to just have to be a friendship. I'm going to be mentored a little bit. I'm probably going to take his products. Won't work as a client because I could already tell there'd be some batting of heads. So why do I want to get out of my sweet spot, work with somebody that's already in their sweet spot, and then cause us both headache? So I'm literally sitting there and considering this as we're moving through the process. You have to make sure you have considered all of the stuff that could happen in that decision making. Number two, clarity. Once you have gotten total consideration on what decision you want to make, you've decided this is it, this is where I'm going, then you've got to have clarity on why you're making this decision. So many times, again, knee-jerk reaction. We don't know why we made the decision. Let's just go into it. We have no clarity. Matter of fact, half the time, if you're a leader, you make a decision and your team has no clarity. And where there's no clarity, you're going to have division. Where there's division, that means vision, two visions. Nobody's on the same page. This causes you headache if you're a leader, causes headache in the field. Matter of fact, it really causes a headache in the field when you haven't been clear on why you did what you did, and then you just throw something out to your field force. You throw something out to the marketing team. Doesn't matter what it is. If there's not clarity, then you're not going to get the result that you want from the decision that you've decided you need to make. This is very important. You need to focus on this because this, again, same thing happens when we're doing kids, okay? When you just tell your kid, no, absolutely not. What's the first thing you usually hear is, why? Why not? You don't understand. Why can't I? I mean, it doesn't matter from adolescents to teenagers to adults. If we haven't given them the clarity of the vision on why we made this decision, then we're going to have pushback no matter what it is. That's why you've got to have clarity. Number three, this is a big one. You got to weigh this against your conscience. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a story of a time when I should have weighed it more on my conscience. Tom Chenault, a lot of you guys know Tom Chenault. He's got the longest running radio show on the home business, Main Street business arena, syndicated across the nation. And one of my clients back in 2012 had just been shut down by the Securities and Exchange Commission. They had raided the offices, come in, taken over the client. And he asked me to be on his radio show. He wanted to talk about it. And I said, that's no problem whatsoever. And we got into the nitty gritty. We're into the details. And finally, he says to me, Troy, has Zeke Rewards ever paid you a dime? Now, that's a pretty simple, straightforward question, right? Now, in reality, let me give you a little bit of backstory. In reality, they had never paid me a dime. They were owned by a company called Rex Venture Group. I had a consulting agreement with Rex Venture Group, not with Zeke Rewards. Rex Venture Group had a variety of companies. So here I am in a split second. In my conscience, I knew, hey, I should clarify this and say, hey, here's how the money flowed. Instead, here's what I said. They cover all my, Zeke Rewards has never paid me anything. Their parent company covers all my expenses. Seems like a ambiguous answer, but at least it's an answer. Securities and Exchange Commission, under the 1933 Securities Act, said, Troy, you did not disclose that you had a retainer of a certain amount of money plus your expenses. I shaved off hairs, and as soon as I said it, my conscience said, you just screwed up. And I did. That cost me a sanction from the Securities and Exchange Commission and $6,000 in a fine, because I did not listen to the third C in decision making and follow my conscience. Instead, the company just got shut down. It was the world's largest Ponzi scheme based on the amount of people that had joined. Company didn't listen to me, didn't listen to their legal advisors, didn't listen to anybody. And I paid a price. When we don't make decisions based on our conscience, we will pay a price. Here's the interesting thing about this. We're not the only ones that pay the price. Those people around us will pay the price. I remember being just a few months later in Salt Lake City when my wife calls me on the phone. We live in a beautiful neighborhood on a barrier island in the panhandle of Florida. The neighbors know everybody, kids know everybody. And she says, honey, I got 2 U.S. Marshals at the front door wanting to serve me papers. You talk about a woman that's embarrassed. Now understand, you guys that have followed us for a while know that she is a best-selling inspirational romance writer. She has her own following, her own fan base, and critics like to blend sometimes what a husband, in this case, his indiscretions are, and throw it into the wife. I'm so blessed that none of the critics did that with me. They left her alone. But it was a moment where I learned I will never again cross my conscience. When I believe, in my case, when I believe the Holy Spirit's given me something, I'm just going to follow it, right, wrong, or indifferent. You can like it or not. That's where I'm doing. In your guys' case, if you don't have a faith walk of any kind, follow your conscience. Okay. Number 4, you've got to have the courage to act. That's a huge one right there. You can consider all your options. You can have clarity. You're following your conscience. But if you don't have the courage to act, then you're still going to be stuck. You're still not going to know what to do. It was interesting because I remember when the FTC came in and shut down VEMA. BK Braco and I were texting a little bit at the time. He was in the middle of chaos, single dad, taking care of the kids, not knowing what he's going to do. He could have crumbled in it all. He could have said enough is enough. I'm going to take my personal fortune. I'm going to go raise my kids. I'm not going to worry about any of this. Someday I'll write my memoirs and it'll be a story. And instead of doing that, he had the courage to fight back, similar to what Jeff Olson is doing right now over at Narium. He said, I am not going to take this lying down. Without a doubt, I'm sure I've made some mistakes, but I am not running an illicit operation whatsoever. Now, this was a time in BK's life where the company's doing almost $500 million in sales. Life is great. Goes to bed on a Friday, goes into work on a Monday, boom, doesn't even have the keys to the doors. He fought back. He had the courage to fight back. You as an individual have to have the courage to follow through with the decision you're making. If you feel like the company that you're with is not the fuel that you need to be able to hit your purpose, find a new company. That's not quitting. All this crap that we hear sometimes, don't be a quitter. Winners never quit. Okay, think about this for a second. You may not be quitting on you, but you need to be quitting on what's not working. Have you ever seen an athlete who's on a team and the team's a winning team, but he's not winning personally? He goes to a different team. He gets traded. He's a free agent, whatever the case. He goes to another team and explodes his career. Did he quit? Or did he just shift a little bit? Sometimes we have to shift, but we have to have the courage to make the shift. We have to have the courage to make the pivot. Otherwise, that decision that we're making really isn't going to do us any good, because we're just going to be sitting there doing nothing. You have to have the courage. It can be a small decision. It can be a big decision. You guys know Lena, one of my 11-year-olds, national gymnast, has a blast, medals out the yin yang. I tell you, I don't have to lift weights. I just lift her medals. Yes, I'm a proud daddy. But every time she practices, she decides, I'm going to take it another level. Her best score in her last meet was on the beam. And a few years ago, I can tell you, the beam was the one area of her that she was scared. She's in midair. She's on a beam that's less than 6 inches wide. She's doing all of these flips, all of these twists, but she had the courage to push through the fear. You have to have the courage to push through the fear. It's the only way you're going to make it. Number 5. This is one that I think it goes back a little bit to conscience, but I think this is how we know for sure. Contentment, not complacency. Contentment. Are you content with the decision that you just made? See, if you can't be content with that decision, then you need to scoot back up and look at the conscience factor for a minute and say, look, man, am I having a battle here? Go back up to number 2 and say, do I really have clarity here? Why is it that I'm not feeling content with the decision? My decision, as I was ending a call yesterday, knowing, man, this guy's just the greatest guy under the sun. I have so much fun listening to him. His company's going to be one of those that explodes. He's already attracting great leaders. But yet I knew, man, this I don't think we can work together. Could my decisions change down the road? Yes, because I constantly reevaluate my decisions as I go. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction. I'll never do business with this gentleman. It's a matter of, whoa, wait a minute. I'm already getting those triggers. He's going to be a tough one to try to shift a little bit. And if you can't shift a client in the direction they need to go, there's no reason to take their money. It's that plain and simple. Matter of fact, I'd take that a step further. If you've got people that you're trying to attract to your team and all they do is buy the product and let it sit in their garage, let it go into an expiration date, they're really not the people you want on your team. You've got to have people on your team who are also students of the product. They're using the product. Their family's using the products. They've had an experience with the products. It could be services. I don't care what it is. Listen to me for a second. Just going out and attracting bodies on your team because you think you're going to rank up, it's going to make you a leader, you're going to make more money. There are easier ways of making money than building a sales organization. I'm going to tell you that right now. You've got to have a passion for what it is you're doing. So use these 5 C's: consider, clarity, conscience, courage, contentment, no matter what the decision is that you're getting ready to make. It can be in business, it can be in life, it can be in how you're dealing with your kids, doesn't matter what it is. That's what you guys need to do. Stay humble, stay strong, and you've been listening to a voice in Main Street America.